There are people who are broke financially, and it has nothing to do with them not working hard.
They stay broke because they keep making the same 5 mistakes with their money, even as their income rises.
Today, we're breaking down 5 things that you want to avoid if you want to build wealth. Today's topic is simple, but it's not easy because everyone wants to be wealthy. But most people don't realize that building wealth is not just about what you make.
It's about what you keep, and more importantly, what you build over time. A lot of people make decent money, but they still feel stuck.
And what we're going to talk about today is why.
Yeah, because there's 5 things that we see repeated over and over again that keep people from building wealth.
Yeah, and just to be clear, this is not meant to be criticism.
Not at all. This is educational. We're not speaking in specific financial advice. It's just hypotheticals.
But if you do want to be wealthy or build wealth, here's 5 things that you need to avoid. All right, so here are the 5 things. Number 1, not maximizing your earning potential. Number 2, using debt and what we call lifestyle creep to upgrade your life a little too quickly. Number 3, not having a financial plan that accounts for today and tomorrow. Number 4 is not giving your money a home before you spend it. And number 5 is not optimizing your tax efficiency.
Yeah, Jordan, what I really like about this list is it's not trendy. It's things that actually move the needle.
So let's go back to the first one, not maximizing your earning potential. This one is a little bit uncomfortable because people really just want to talk about investing, but they don't want to talk about income.
Right, because that points the finger back at me. I can't blame somebody else.
Yeah, and the truth is, the old saying goes, when you point the finger at somebody else, you got 3 pointed right back at you.
That's right. And I want to be clear, you can build wealth with a modest income, but that chore is going to get much harder if you don't go out there and try to earn more over time.
So when we talk about wanting to maximize our earning potential, let's discuss what that actually means. What are some things that we can do to maximize our earning potential, or at least set us on a path to doing that?
So really maximizing your education, your skills, and leverage. And I don't just mean going out there and getting a degree. So what do I mean? I'm talking about trade skills, certifications, life skills, how to negotiate, learning how to communicate more effectively. These are all things that can really just impact your potential to earn.
Impact. So we're not talking about just spending money to go get a degree. We're talking about doing things, acquiring certifications, skills, and leverage that are actually going to impact your earning potential.
Right. You don't have to go out there and spend a ton of money to do this stuff. I mean, with YouTube, like you're here learning today.
Right.
So there are a bunch of knowledge, skills, and abilities you can acquire through reading, going to trusted sources that you listen to, doing different jobs, right? We'll talk about that here in a little bit. My journey's kind of unique, but you don't have to go out there and get in a bunch of debt to go make more money. That's actually kind of contrary to what you want to do.
Every dollar you spend is actually a dollar you got to earn back on your way.
And
to
a lot of people don't do that math.
Right.
Increase the value you bring to the marketplace.
Eddie, sometimes the best investment is not made in the market, it's made in yourself.
Right. Because a truly marketable skill is going to raise your income for decades. Right. And not just that, as you continue to better yourself. A lot of us sit there and think of, okay, I've arrived, I'm at the mountaintop. Right, I can't go any higher. Well, as soon as you start doing that, and you're not looking, up anymore, you start sliding down the back end.
That's right. You
start losing ground because guess what? There is somebody else out there making themselves better and more marketable than you. So always continue learning. That's right. Always continue and bettering yourself. Because why? Well, if you go out and make $15,000 extra a year, That's not just a one time, hey, I just got 15 grand, right? That's year over year. And every raise you get is year over year. And that compounds over time.
My coaches back when I was playing ball used to say this: if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And the reason is because the fact is the marketplace is competitive. It is highly competitive.
And everyone's trying to get better.
That's right. And so everybody's constantly doing this. And if you ever get to a point where you say, I'm here, well, that's fine, but you're going to get left in the dust.
The goalpost is moving.
That's right. Constantly. You know, Eddie, I think sometimes people underestimate the value of one career move. And sometimes that doesn't even mean starting a new career. It can mean staying within the same career, and it looks like a promotion, a new certification, even a successful negotiation.
There's a lot of people out there that will spend way more time educating themselves on the next investment to buy than they do educating themselves on how to improve their income.
Right.
That's backward, because the income is the fuel that fires everything else along the way.
Right.
And investing is what you do with that fuel.
So avoid this first mistake, making your income stagnant because you never invest in yourself and new skills.
Yep. Maximize your earning potential, because it gives you the ability to invest, save, and become free. Let me give you all a personal story. You know, out of high school, I joined the Marine Corps, and I served almost 8 years. And during that time, there was all kinds of knowledge, skills, abilities I never dreamed that I would ever use anywhere else. Now, some of it, you know, you learn leadership skills, highly important. Communication skills, highly important. But there's other things. It's like, why am I doing this way? Well, some of the things you're learning is what not to do as a person, right? And so I can't pull that off, or that's not my leadership style, or I don't like the way that's run. This would have been more efficient.
So maybe one skill is learning your limits.
Yep. Learning your limitations and learning your abilities all on the way, and having a place like the military to do that for me was huge, because they kind of keep the bumper lanes up where you can't really just fall on your face. You know, there's people there to lift you up, encourage you all on the way. I go to college right out of the Marine Corps. And while I was in college, I just found a part-time job because I was a single dad, you know, had to eat, had to feed my daughter. And so I got this part-time job that actually paid pretty well while I was doing that. And while I was at that job, right, that was not my end goal. I was going to college for business and finance. But while I was at that job, I learned so much about business. I worked for a small business owner. And the communication skills that I learned there, the business skills that I learned there, was all hugely impactful on me being a business owner today. I didn't know I was going to be sitting in the seats that I sit in now and serve the clients that I serve now at that point in my life. But it was the things I learned back then that were helpful in that how do I achieve a successful business? Then out of college, they hired me to manage that store because of the things that I learned. They needed somebody to run the store. I put myself out there, and because of the job I did, the work, the learning, I wasn't just doing my job. I was trying to learn how to run the business. So they wanted me to manage the store. So I did that for a long time. Then I got into the investment world under somebody else for a long time before eventually I bought the business, took over, these kind of things. And so there were different steps. And if you asked Eddie Arnold at 18 years old that I was going to be doing what I'm doing for a living now, I'd have laughed at you, because I had no clue at that point in my life. All I knew is that I had to get better at something. And the only thing I knew were the knowledge, skills, and abilities that I had and the ones I didn't have. So making money has nothing to do with a specific degree. Has nothing to do with that. You can make money doing anything just about.
Right.
The difference is how are you going to improve that stance, that money that you're making?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's only one way, and that's to get better and to make your value higher so that you can go out there and be worth more to somebody else.
So maximizing your earning potential is maybe about being a better you.
Right.
So let's talk about the second mistake to avoid. Avoid debt wherever possible. We're talking about lifestyle creep, investing in depreciating assets, and lacking having an emergency fund.
Right.
When people hear avoid debt, most of the time they think you're saying never borrow money.
Right. And that's not what we're saying. Debt is a tool. But the issue is debt really limits your options. It increases your monthly obligations and it can increase the amount of financial stress you have in your life, the more debt that you add to the equation.
So people can go into debt because of what we would call lifestyle creep. So what is lifestyle creep?
Lifestyle creep, as we so lovingly term it, is chasing the Joneses, ultimately, right? You see other people doing things and your income goes up, and so you feel like somebody else has that, I can have that too. Or I've always wanted that, whatever it is, a sports car. I like sports cars. So, I've had a poster of this car when I was a kid, and so now I can afford the note on it. And that note, it's going to put a chokehold on me, but I want that thing so bad that I'm willing to give up a whole lot of other things in my life in order to make that one thing happen. And you do that again and again and again as you make more and more money. Well, going back to what we said earlier in the program is that the amount of money you make to a point is a little irrelevant. It's the fact that you're eating up that income and income potential with more and more stuff through the form of debt and payments that cause you to get stressed out, not have flexibility, not have freedom.
Yeah, so basically lifestyle creep is, we would say, my income goes up, therefore my spending goes up. All of us feel this. When the income rises, we say, oh, hey, I could afford a nicer truck. I could afford a bigger house. We could afford a longer, more extravagant vacation, which may be true. But there doesn't have to be a therefore. And what I mean is this: my income has gone up, therefore I am going to get a nicer truck. I am going to upgrade my house. I'm going to upgrade my lifestyle. If we want to build wealth, we have to get out of that thinking that just because my income goes up, that my spending goes up too. No.
You automatically have to have more because you earn more.
Wealth is built in the margin that you create by income rising and expenses staying lower than that income.
Right. And none of these things are evil, but the love of them's evil.
That's right. So Eddie, you brought up that you like fast cars. I know you love a good sports car. And you talked about that kind of being a trap, potentially, a part of lifestyle creep. Why do you say that?
Well, because here in America, the new car trap is one of the biggest ones that people get locked into financially. And we're not judging. We're not calling anybody out. I love a good new car as well.
I like a truck.
But here's some of the reasons why. A brand new car means a new depreciating asset. Usually you drive it off the lot. It's not worth near what you just paid for it. Right? I don't care how good your negotiating skills are. You're not going to negotiate a price low enough to make up for that difference. Right. It means more insurance, higher insurance, because it's a brand new car, costs more. It's going to mean maintenance over time, taxes and fees, and ultimately then you're going to have to pay interest as well.
Not to mention the subtle trap here of always feeling like you need to have a new car.
Right. And where does that come from? It's keeping up with the Joneses or some dream you've had for a really long time. And again, there's nothing wrong with it, but having a plan to do those things and do it the right way is much different. Problem is it takes a lot longer for most people.
It becomes a monthly payment that competes with your investing.
Exactly.
So we're not saying you can never buy a new car.
Right. It's that if you buy a new car too early, especially early on in your career, then you're not going to have as much money to save to become wealthy to put you in a position to where you can do that later on.
Right.
Or take away from other goals that you have.
That's right. Your dollars are extremely valuable. That new car payment steals the power of compounding interest from you. That's where this gets real. People think, oh, well, it's just $650 a month.
Yeah, it's not just $650 a month. It's also what that $650, we talk about opportunity costs on another video, explain what that is, but it's what that $650 can grow to in the future as well.
And we talk about this. What is the single greatest factor on the growth of your money? Time.
That's it.
And if you take that money early and you invest it in a depreciating asset like a car, it's nice, it's new, you'll probably enjoy it. But you are sacrificing what that money could turn into over the long haul.
Right. Over that same time you're making those payments.
That's right.
And that's where payments get so dangerous.
So let's shift a little bit here and let's talk about emergency funds. Because when we talk about debt and lifestyle creep, this is where emergency funds really start to come into play. Why is that?
Because an emergency fund is the thing that keeps you from going further in debt. And what do we mean? Well, you've got these payments, car payment, house payment, rent, whatever it is. You've got payments going out every month. And you've only got so much income. Let's just say that you do have stagnant income or something. So you're at this level. Well, as those debts take away the amount of disposable income you have, and then all of a sudden you get a flat tire or a pipe burst in your house or name it. Some bad thing happens. And then guess what? You've been making all these payments. You haven't been saving anything because you still got to eat, right? So all that's being eaten up, your disposable income eaten up with payments. And so how are you going to get that new tire? How are you going to put a new roof on your house? How are you going to do it, Jordan?
Well, let's just remember this. Let's bring it to reality. It's normally not just one thing, is it?
Right.
Normally, when you get that nail in your tire or that blowout, that comes at the same time that some other emergency, unplanned expense comes up. And then what happens is you go to the tire shop and they say, look, you didn't just run over one nail that destroyed this tire. You actually have problems with all four of your tires. Even for a cheap set of tires, you're looking at $1,200 at a minute for the most cheap tires you can buy. And you know what they're going to say at the tire shop? They're going to say, hey, it's okay. It's okay. We actually have this offer right now. We'll take $100 off a set of 4 tires if you take out this tire shop credit card.
Right.
With a low interest rate of, who knows, 28%.
Yeah. Then that just got fixed. All of a sudden a storm comes in, takes out your fence.
Yep.
Something like that. So like you were saying, we've said this before, things happen in 2s and 3s, not usually in 1s.
Yep. So we could talk about lifestyle creep being debt creep.
Right.
Now, most of the time, that's what it is. It eats into your discretionary or disposable income, and it does that in the form of long-term interest-bearing debts.
Yeah. If we all looked at debt as a creep, we'd probably avoid it a lot more.
Well said. So again, the second mistake that we want to avoid if we want to build wealth is we want to avoid debt if at all possible. And also we need to watch out for lifestyle creep.
Wealth isn't built by what you buy, it's what you keep.
So the third mistake that we want to avoid is not having a financial plan that takes into account today and the future.
Right. Many, many people put their extremes on one end of the spectrum or the other.
That's right.
Right. They're worried way too much about today, which I find probably the majority of folks, or they worry way too much about tomorrow and forsake today altogether. And actually, both are wrong.
So it's either you only live once, YOLO, or I'm miserable, but at least I'm saving.
Exactly, because wealth by itself isn't necessarily the goal. Freedom is the goal.
So what exactly does a good financial plan do for you?
A plan takes the guessing out, right? So we're going to sit down, gather all the information about your life, your money, your income, your goals, your saving, all this kind of stuff, populate it together. Because what happens to a lot of people is I've got this little account over here, I've got this income. Maybe you have 2 or 3 jobs, right? You got different income streams coming. You don't even know how much you make because it's all coming in at different frequencies. You don't even know how much you have saved because it's all scattered out all over Kingdom Come. So by putting all that together, you can actually see how it all functions, how the system functions together rather than individually. Because what happens if I use this analogy a lot when we're doing financial plans. If you're in a ship, right, and you're trying to get from, the United States of America, say specifically New York City to London, and you get in that ship, but you've got 5 different captains with their hands on the steering wheel, right? And they're all got their opinions about which direction you should be going. Where do you end up? Probably not right where you want to go. Could be close, maybe not anywhere in the vicinity, but that's what happens. So that's one thing. And the other is how much, Jordan, do you even have to spend on today? How much should you be saving for tomorrow? Hard to really nail that down if you can't put all your circumstances and lifestyle information, your income, all that into one place to do the proper math to determine that.
Right. The truth is a plan creates structure and it outlines the direction. A plan also accounts for real life. That's the kind of stuff that we don't tend to really think about. Yeah,
a plan's going to include your cash flow, lifestyle changes. It's going to put in there different risks that exist within your life. It's going to put in goals. It's going to put in things down the road, potholes we call them a lot of the times that you don't see coming.
Not to mention your plans for retirement, taxes that you're going to have to pay.
Long-term care, things of this nature. A lot of people discount that one. That's a big one because it doesn't come to your radar. It's like, I'm not going to need that until I'm 80, 85 years old, maybe even older than that. Why should I care about that at all?
How about even this one? A plan to be generous.
Right.
Instead of just looking at it like, well, if I have something left over, then I can help.
Well, how do you even know how much you really have to give?
Without a plan?
That's a lot of people would love to be generous, but they don't know that they can.
And also, we want to plan for those what if kind of scenarios.
Yep, because life doesn't go in a straight line.
So this third mistake, it's trying to build wealth without an actual plan. It's like trying to build a house without a blueprint. Mistake number 4 that we want to avoid, we make sure that we have a home. A lot of times we don't make sure that our money has a home. And so the mistake that we want to avoid is not having a home for your money before you spend it. That one sounds simple, but it's pretty sneaky.
Yeah, because most people don't decide where their money's going to go ahead of time. They just hope there's some left over. When we do plans for people, we find that even people that are saving well, right? They're doing a good job. They're on that route where, they could fine tune some things or whatnot, things that they typically don't think about, like we're talking about long-term care maybe some tax strategy, things of this nature that they're just not able to do the math on. But even with that, like when we're doing the cash flow analysis for folks, there's like this difference when we're doing a budget. There's this difference that's just left over. They give us their expenses. They give us their medical. They give us their dental. They give us vacations. They give us everything. They think, oh man, I've got every penny accounted for. And then there's this big amount.
Yeah.
And it's usually like 15 to 30 grand,
right,
or something like that left over. And we have to tell the software, the computer, just spend it, because they're not saving it, because if they were saving it, they would have told us about it. But it's money that's just disappearing, and that's pretty common. But had they had a home for that ahead of time, right? Now, I will say this. There has to be some flexibility because life,
the what ifs.
Yeah, the what ifs, and what you spent last month is not necessarily what this month's going to cost. Right. So I understand there's some breathing that goes on. So we typically like to see a little cushion there. But a lot of times these cushions are really big, and folks just don't know what they're spending that money on.
That's right. If you don't assign a home for your money, spending is going to assign it for you. And usually the spending assigns it to convenience, impulse, subscriptions, and lifestyle creep.
Yep.
So what is it then that people who build wealth actually do?
They create structure. They give their money a home. Saving, investing, travel, kids' college savings, emergency fund, they give it a purpose.
So we're not just talking about budgeting, so to speak.
A lot of people hear budget and they think restriction. But what we're talking about is freedom. Because when you know where your money is going, you actually gain a lot of flexibility about how you spend it.
Yeah. Structure creates boundaries. And within those boundaries, freedom. Thing is, when you go out of bounds, think about competitions, think about all that. When you go out of bounds, there's penalty. And when you go out of bounds in your plan, when you go out of bounds in your spending, there's penalty for
now, sometimes
that.
there's a 10% penalty.
Oof, yeah.
With IRAs.
So mistake number 4, it's not having a home for your money, which causes you to lose track and potentially overspend. Let's talk about number 5, which is optimizing your tax efficiency.
It's the fun one.
This is the part, Eddie, that people don't talk about near enough.
Yeah, because over a lifetime, taxes is one of the biggest expenses that people have. It kind of quietly drains everything from you. And that's the difference between a good strategy and a bad strategy, is usually taxes.
Yeah, people hear taxes and think, well, that's for the rich.
Right, but taxes hit everybody. And just the average person could probably fix their tax situation a little better or optimize that by utilizing just the accounts they already have available to them.
So what does that look like?
Optimizing what you can from your 401k. That money comes right out of your paycheck. And depending on what tax bracket you're in, by the way, like if you're in a high tax bracket, like say you're in a 22% plus tax bracket, which even when you're young, a lot of young folks think, oh, that's not me. But when you're single, if you happen to be single and young, you fall into that bracket pretty quick. Right. And just so think of it this way, if you have $1 come out of your paycheck, whether you're paying it right then on the spot or at the end of the year, there's going to be potentially 22% withheld from that dollar, maybe more. Right. And so when you put that dollar, instead of it going into your pocket and you paying 22% on it, like how much are you keeping? You're keeping 78 cents, not the full dollar. But if you take that dollar and it goes straight in your 401k, it does not get taxed.
Right. A 401k, 403b, that's a qualified investment account, which means you are able to lower your taxable income by diverting that money so it grows tax-free But then at the end, when you're potentially going to be in a lower tax bracket in retirement years, then you can withdraw that money. And when you do, you pay taxes at your current income tax level, which is normally going to be lower.
Yeah, or if it's the same, just say the tax situation is the same, but that whole time that dollar was in there, you got to earn money on that tax money before you pulled it out, right? And so 401ks, IRAs, Roth IRAs, HSA, we've talked a lot about this. There's some potential retirement strategies you can even use with HSAs, and a lot of people don't realize that. And then ultimately brokerage accounts. Now, that one on the surface doesn't seem real tax efficient, but I'll tell you, a lot of times if it's done properly, right? Tax management. If it's done properly, then it can be more tax efficient than your savings account. Now, we're not saying don't have an emergency fund. Don't hear that. But beyond that, right, beyond what you need for an emergency fund, and we talk about that in other videos, if you tax manage something, you can net more, keep more in a brokerage style account. So optimizing those accounts, huge flexibility in your tax situation. So the goal isn't just to maximize returns by themselves.
Right. It's to keep more in the end. Because, Eddie, if you ignore taxes, everything may look great on paper, but then when the tax man cometh, that's when it's really going to take a hit. And that's when the disappointment is going to set in. That's when the disillusionment is going to set in. That's when it's going to really hurt, is when that tax bill comes due. And you know what the IRS does not care about? The IRS does not care about your plans. The IRS does not care about your future. The IRS certainly does not care about our feelings.
Right. Yeah. Optimizing your return is fine, but not in lieu of optimizing taxes.
Yeah. You can do both.
You can do both, because a 6% one way is not 6%
That's right.
a different way if you take taxes into account.
What good does it do to make a good return on an investment, but then to have to turn around and pay unnecessary taxes because you weren't planning for it? And then that takes whatever that return was and it just reduces it immediately.
And at the end of the day, if your goal is to build wealth, like what we're talking about on this video, how are you going to get further ahead if you're constantly, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back? Well, why don't you just take the full 2 steps every time, or as much as possible?
Right. That's why we work so hard, not just on financial advising. That's why we work so hard on financial planning. And a lot of people, Eddie, they don't understand the difference in that. A financial advisor is going to work with you on your investments and how that money is going to go into the stock market and work for you. A financial planner is going to do that, but they're also going to consider, how are you going to be withdrawing that money? What's the most tax efficient way to do that? How can we make sure that you net more money, or at least this, how do we make sure that you net the money you need to meet your goals?
Right.
So mistake number 5, it is ignoring the effect that taxes are going to have on your plan. All right, Eddie, so let's go ahead and just wrap this up, and let's put a positive spin on it right here. Let's talk about 5 things you need to do if you want to build wealth.
Number 1, maximize your earning potential.
Number 2, minimize how much debt you get in and prevent lifestyle creep.
Number 3, and this is probably my favorite, have a financial plan.
Number 4, make sure you have a home for your money before you spend it.
Number 5, optimize your tax strategy.
So if we had to boil it down, we'd say this: building wealth isn't about one big decision.
It's about the accumulation of small decisions that are repeated consistently.
If this helped you, would you like and subscribe, and consider sharing it with somebody who's trying to get ahead financially?
Check out the description. You'll find links to other videos where we cover topics that may be helpful. And remember, the goal isn't to avoid mistakes, it's to build a plan that actually works.